Walker Tea Review. I'm Jason Walker. We're going to be looking at teas together. We're going to be exploring, appreciating, finding out what kind of teas are out there. For example, we have found this tea. This is from DragonTea, which is a tea company listed through eBay. This is a Sichuan green tea. It is actually the mountain area it comes from is a cultural heritage site. And we're going to go ahead and get some of this tea started. You're going to see that we're going to be using some of our basic equipment here. We've got a tea kettle, electric tea kettle. We've got a basic teaspoon and a gaiwan. This is about a 4-ounce gaiwan. We're going to add about enough of our tea leaves, and this is a pretty piled up looking teaspoon here, but it's not actually flattened out and covered the whole surface. And when it does, that's a pretty decent sized teaspoon there. So we're going to add that right in. Now we let our water come to a boil, and it's I've been not a full roaring boil, rather, but we will let it to cool probably about 45 seconds to a minute. And because it's a green tea, likes a little bit of a gentler temperature, this should work just fine. Work very well for this tea. And there we go. We're just going to pour right into our gaiwan. Leaves are starting to swirl around and circulate, which is good. It gives it a good coating in the water. Actually, I'm going to add just a couple drops more because we want our lid here to cover, or actually just sit the rim of the lid to sit just below the water line, so you've got a nice kind of a water seal built around there, which is going to work very well. Especially the steam inside is going to kind of ride, or the heat is going to push and force a little bit of water out on that rim as well. So that looks good. Set that aside gently. Actually, the other thing, if you feel that there's too much water on the rim and it's getting too hot to the touch, you can simply raise your lid up a little bit, let some of that steam and heat out, and that will allow a little bit of that heat to dissipate, the water level to drop down some, so that you can let that rim cool off a little bit. So while that's steeping for just a few seconds, let's go ahead and talk about this tea. As we said, Dragon Tea House. This is their EMeiERui. Now, Emei is a mountain in Sichuan province, famous area. I'm not sure if it's a World Heritage Site, but it is a pretty well-known, well-protected heritage cultural site. So you have this tea, their Emei green tea, 100 grams, which is about 3.5 ounces, for $24.99, $25. Okay, as we said, from Sichuan. And when we go through a tea tasting, look at that, that water's built up to the edge again. We're just going to go ahead and kind of let that cool off a little bit, let some of the steam and heat out, which is fine with, which is more acceptable with a green tea, because green teas, you don't want them to have too much temperature or heat on them, so that should work out just fine. Going through a tea tasting, dry leaf, wet leaf, liquor. So let's go ahead and jump right into this. This is going to shake, get some of that air circulated. Nice green tea type, characteristic Chinese green tea type aromas. A little bit of a lemon zest in there, which with a little bit, what's on top more, it's kind of a sweet pea with a little bit of lemon zest underneath that. And as we looked at these leaves, as we saw as we were kind of putting them in the gaiwan there, a couple of things you do want to note: that these are rather curled up. They're fine, delicate looking, fairly small leaves, kind of crinkled, wiry, and you do see some fuzzy fuzzy pieces here and there, which is a sign that these are delicate tips. Nice aspect there. Delicate tips often add an element of higher quality to it. You're also getting some deep green. These are kind of emerald green type colors, which is also an added, that blue green indicates a deeper level of freshness, of vibrancy there. All good signs on that aspect. And you saw that these were fairly narrow, like a half an inch or so at the most. Let's go ahead and seal this back up to preserve that for next time. This, by the way, is a Chinese musical instrument. Sometime in my future, I will learn to play this and get some smooth notes to come out of this as you blow across this almost like a flute, like a clay flute type of instrument. But let's go ahead and talk about the wet leaf now. Go ahead and get ready to pour. Now, because we did have some hot water near the rim, we're going to again lift up the lid, let some of that seep back down. So we set that down here. Get our wine glass, and we use a wine glass so that we can look at the color and stick our nose into the glass. Angle your lid so that you've got a fairly good opening so this pours fairly smoothly. You may get a few leaves that will escape, and you put your middle finger and your thumb on the rim. You use your ring finger also for support if you need. Index finger on the top. This is not, we don't necessarily need high level of technique, but we need to be proficient enough that we don't scald our fingers. And there we go. Those last few drops usually got a little bit of extra strength in them, so we're going to make sure to shake those out. And there we are. So we set that aside for just a minute. Let me get that off to the side a little bit so we can talk about this wet leaf for just a moment. Now, with the heating, the toasting, the firing processes that these green teas go through, you will often get a kind of a green bean, boiled green bean type of smell coming off of your wet leaf. You also get a bit of a warm kind of sweetness to it. So you're getting that steamed bean with a little bit of kind of a sweetness, kind of a floral, fragrant Irish Spring, the classic, bar soap Irish Spring kind of fragrance there as well. So those again, but that's underneath that green bean type smell. Okay, when you look at the shape and color of these leaves, they have opened up. You're getting some leaves that are a brighter yellowish type of green yellow, like I say, like a pear green again. Yeah, let's see. These are still fairly wrapped up, so they're not really unfurling to show the full size of the leaf. But here, that one's about an inch and a half long. Here's a leaf that has opened up and fairly intact, not completely intact. It is missing a little bit. Oops, drop that one. Put that one in here for now. Some kind of stemmy looking pieces, like yeah, you can tell a delicate stem, and it's so green it blends in really with the leaf, so it's not a very thick woody type of stem with a nice leaf that has barely unfurled. Yeah, a leaf that was not very mature at all. Was very recently a tip or bud like unopened leaf. Let's see if I can pull out just a couple more. Here's another one that's open. So that gives us a little bit of the kind of leaf, the delicate stem on which it was attached, or still is attached in some cases. Again, unfurled, so still quite delicate there. Let's go ahead now and talk about our liquor here. Okay, yellowish, a little bit of green in there. You are also getting some fuzz. Again, that fuzz is coming from the downy little buds or tips there that were in this mixture, in these leaves, I should say. Let's go ahead and give these a try. This kind of Chinese green, if you're familiar with Chinese greens, if you're comfortable with Chinese greens, then you are comfortable with a certain level of astringency. This one's got a fairly high level of astringency. Okay, this is I have tasted this level of astringency in several bilochuans. Uh, bilochuans, I have found in my past experience, tend to carry more astringency than some of the other Chinese greens. That lima bean note, a lima bean note, is coming out in the aroma. After the astringency fades off, it does tend towards a little bit of a sweetness. Um, Underneath the lima bean, you get a little bit of a celery, a little bit of asparagus type. Especially, it's a nice asparagus tip can have some sweetness to it, and that's the kind of sweetness that you're detecting here. That faint sweetness we talked about, the brothiness is on par with, say, a Dragon Well, say a Bilochun. Actually, this one would perform a lot better if the steeping time had been lower. So for future reference, if you were tasting along with me, cut down that steep time. We talked, we had time for our introduction, but that gave us more. That gave us a longer steep time. So you want to do more of a quick flash Gaiwan type steeping. Pour your water in, lid. You could wait 30 seconds and probably pour off and get a lower astringency, a nice smoother cup. So I don't want to detract from this tea too much by saying it's astringent. It is, and many teas can be quite astringent, especially more astringent if you oversteep them. So again, this is a tea that you want to go easier on that steep time. The sweetness is there. That the vegetable components are there. We talked about the celery, we talked about that lima bean, we talked a little bit about the asparagus type sweetness in there. So the body is gentle. It doesn't fade over into watery, which is a positive. Lightly, so therefore we're left with lightly brothy. The nice sweet smells that we got from the wet leaf and the dry leaf as well. That gives us something that's appealing about this tea. So overall, we give this tea. We're going to give it a 90. Again, this was from DragonTea. This was their EMeiERui, a Sichuan style tea, or Sichuan origin tea. Give it a try if it's something that you haven't experienced before. If you're coming up on we're coming up on the spring harvest. If you feel like the Dragon Well isn't really your preferred Chinese green, there are a lot out there. Go for something like this. Give it a try. Give the Gaiwan steeping style a try. Works with a lot of teas. Good to have some experience with that as well. So come back and join us. Next time we're going to be looking at a pu'er and talking about a little bit about how to get into a pu'er. So join us again at Walker Tea Review.